are you listening to? Straight Talk with Kim and Carolyn.
Welcome to Straight Talk with Kim and Carolyn. Tonight we're going to be talking about party rating because it is alive and well and growing and frustrating. And we're also just going to talk generally about our recent caucus meetings and the upcoming convention. So we have with us tonight, we have our state party chair, Carson Jorgensen, who's going to give us these updates and we're going to have a good chat.
Yeah, and I think Carson has heard from a lot of people around the state who have concerns, right? If we remember a couple years ago, in the gubernatorial race, we had a Republican candidate who called on Democrats and independents to register in order to vote in the primary for him.
And we have that active right now.
And it got worse because this time around, we seem to have a candidate who is calling on Democrats and independents to register for caucuses and attend and be elected as delegates to vote through the convention process.
Oh, and then that was all compounded, too, by the Salt Lake Tribune editorial board outwardly promoting that non-Republicans become Republicans and show up to their caucus meeting. And once again, a member of that editorial board is a governing officer of the state Republican Party. Yeah. And so that is definitely, I believe, if not a violation of specific rules, it's definitely a violation of fiduciary duty of care and loyalty to that organization, and why she remains in a position to be so anti-party
and anti-platform and everything that we all claim to believe in.
And subversive to the organization. To the organization. She helps govern. So.
Because that truly is, ultimately. So, Carson, tell us kind of what you're hearing. Tell us, we know the party has their hands tied on a lot of things. I know this because I've texted you. And tell us what you're hearing and what you're looking at being able to do here.
You know, there's been a lot of it, and thanks for having me on. But there have been a lot of it. There have been a lot of, like you said, with the editorial board writing that story, candidates openly. I mean, it's one thing to tell somebody to vote in the primary, because we here in Utah have a closed primary. And I mean, that's one thing. But to actually come into our caucus meetings and try to infiltrate our caucus meetings, that is a totally different animal. Mm-hmm. And it's really disappointing to see that some of these other parties have found that they can't win a race in Utah anyways. And so they decide to try to infiltrate and ruin our system. And it's just not right. And we're trying to do the right thing here in the party. We're trying to find the best candidates we can. We're trying to get the best candidates that represent the Republican values elected. And when these people come over here, and we want as many people to join the party as we can. Don't get me wrong. I want as many people here, but they have to believe in what we believe in. And that Republican Party platform and what binds us as Republicans is why we want them to come. But if you don't believe in that, I guess what's the point of coming over?
So you have a saying about big tent that I really like. Tell us your view of the big tent notion.
So my view of the big tent has really changed, and I absolutely love Ronald Reagan. But the big tent in my mind has changed because the tent, it signifies that the party moves. And I don't like that anymore because the party shouldn't move. The party should be steadfast. I think the party should be more like a castle than a tent. We need to be rooted in our foundations. We need to have a strong moral compass. And then if people want to come and join the party, the doors are big and the doors are wide open. So that's what we want. We don't want to move the party to the people. We want the people to come to the party because of what the party stands for.
Yeah.
So a couple of years ago, right after the last presidential election, an organization called the Utah Foundation, which isn't particularly a conservative organization by any stretch, but they do kind of postmortem on elections, and they studied sort of the status of Republicans and Democrats and independents in our state. And they noted that the Democrat Party registering about doubled to 15% now. The Republican Party stays pretty static. The independents or the unaffiliateds tend to still lean Republican to a large degree, but But one thing that stood out, one bullet point from this study said that Democrats and Republicans have moved increasingly away from each other, but mainly because the Democrats have moved. Republicans have stayed steady on sort of their platform and what they believe. It's the Democrats that have just, gone further and further away, and which, we're also seeing. We are seeing a Democrat Party walk away, and where our party's benefiting from that to some extent. But, after Caucus Night, we started seeing a lot of people post in social media, I'm really a Democrat, but I showed up to the Republican caucus and now I'm a delegate. I'm going to go to convention. And so a lot of us are really upset about that. If you are self-professed, I don't care how many people voted for you in your caucus meeting, but if you are a self-professed, not really a Republican, you have disdain and contempt for the Republican Party, its beliefs, and its people, but somehow you got yourself elected in a caucus meeting, they
somehow,
should be removed.
Necessarily, you must have lied.
Yeah, or not been disclosing, which is
that's right, which is dishonest.
Really
you must have been dishonest in order to be elected in the first place.
No, and I agree. That's just it. So what we're doing, there are people who are openly saying these things on the internet, and we are making a file of people who have openly said, I'm a Democrat. I'm just getting in here to wreck the Republicans thing. We have these things called credentials challenges for the state convention, which we will be doing to these people who have openly said on social media, I'm a Democrat, just trying to ruin it. And that is about the extent of what we can do unless they're not registered as a Republican.
Okay, so when it comes to a credentials challenge, let's talk about just party business procedures. So is that going to be up to the top leadership of the Republican Party to review the evidence and make a decision? Or does the whole convention floor, who to some degree is made up of these people, do they all get to vote whether they get to stay or not?
We're looking at a super small number, I guess. Right now we're looking at 12 or 13 that we have our eye on is all. Most of these challenges happened before by the credentials committee. These challenges could be made up until the convention when the list becomes final. So we're hoping to take care of that before. We don't want any problems. We want everything seamless at the convention. And we want to keep people out who just want to cause a problem.
Yeah. Well, and frankly, I think it's kind of funny that you have people who don't believe in what we believe in who want to come spend an entire day with us, because it would be pretty painful if I were them. Right?
Well, no, they would show up and they would just vote for Becky Edwards and then leave because she's the one who, told them to do it in the first place.
That is true.
And then Mike Lee will win by huge margins anyway. And then they'll go home, and then the rest of us can stay and do other important things that the party does.
I will tell you, though, as a candidate, I have some delegates who I know are not Republicans. I know that. I don't have the social media evidence. I just have kind of histories that I'm very well aware of. And there's really not a lot I can do.
No.
There really isn't.
And there are some that, you and I have a mutual acquaintance too, where it's just very open that she's just been registered a Republican forever, but is Democrat at heart, but she wants to play in our primary.
I have a relative doing the same thing.
And now... That's not just your right, though. I mean, for those of you who are listening saying, okay, well, that's your right. Well, the Supreme Court said, no, the Republican Party really does have a freedom of association right to determine its membership and in fact, can prohibit this party hopping stuff. The case that went before the Supreme Court, I forget the citation, but it was looking at a 1.5 year law. So a state had created a law that prevented this party rating a 1.5 years ahead. And the Supreme Court said, you can do that. It's your right as a party. So,
and I would at least like to see, and we're working on solutions all the time, but I would at least like to see the affiliation deadline before caucus night. So that way people can't mess within the caucus, and people can change. I mean, people want to vote in the primary. There's not a ton we can do about that,
Right.
but the caucus night, definitely we should have control of, where this is inter-party stuff and it doesn't involve the state at caucus night. There's no reason we shouldn't be able to control those things.
Well, and something that adds to this, another layer, is the Democrat Party does not require affiliation, right? So you can register as a Republican, come and vote in our not only in our primary, but in our caucuses, and run as a delegate. And as a Republican delegate, you can then go over and vote in the Democrat caucuses if you truly are a Democrat. I don't know any Republicans who actually want to do that, but a Democrat can run in both.
Well, and and they know that they're not going to put forward their favored candidate. I mean, they're not putting forward a Democrat. So what they tend to try to do is help support somebody who is more like them,
And some
which
of them,
is not going to be a conservative.
some of them I actually think are Democrats
Yeah.
who have registered as Republicans to run for
run,
office.
yeah.
knowing
We have
that's
lots
the
of
only
those
way.
on Capitol Hill.
See what I'm saying?
On our Capitol Hill.
Yes, this is what I'm saying. I think that people see it as the avenue, and integrity is not.
You might
the
be running
issue that-
against one. No, just
No,
kidding.
no.
Just kidding.
But it's not. I see that as a matter of integrity, and some people, that's just not a value that matters to them the same that it does
Well,
to me.
have you ever wondered if you lived in like ultra Democrat, some city in California or something? Would you?
Yeah, I just.
I don't
wouldn't.
think I could.
No, I
I don't
have.
think I could.
Carson, would you register as a Democrat, man, if you had to get it done?
No,
With the
no, I
nose
would
clip.
not. But I did get a message the other night, and I find this really, really funny. I got a message on Messenger, and I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, but I did get a message from somebody the other night that said, "Hey, I have to know something." I said, "Okay, what is that?" She said, "Somebody in my caucus meeting told me that you were recently a Democrat and you just turned over to a Republican in the last couple of years. Is this true?" And it's like, I have been a Republican since the day I could vote, but I've been a conservative since I could breathe. So I don't know where that's coming from, but I can honestly say that's a hard no.
Yeah, well, and here's what's funny. I can't remember who told me that. I'm going to have you text it to me who said that to you, because they told me. I was actually talking to that person on the phone, and they said, yeah, I was told, and I reached out to Carson, and he said, no, I've been a Republican since I was born. So yeah, I got that that message.
which it never ceases to amaze me how these small little rumors can travel,
That's true.
But it all comes back to the big picture. We want as many people to come to the Republican Party as want to be here, but they have to be here for the right reasons because they believe what we believe.
Yeah.
I call it the Californification of the
Right.
Republican Party.
Yeah.
Because they move here because they don't like it over there, but then they want to change here to be the same as where they came from. It's the same thing as people moving from California as it is people coming to the party. That is why I am so staunch on the party platform and what it means to be a Republican. And we have to have that. We can't keep moving the party to fit people.
Correct.
But we will gladly accept the California conservative asylees who did not have a home and were kicked out of their home. But so let me ask you this, Carson. We did just have our caucus meetings. For years and years, we had a caucus convention system that vetted candidates and produced the party's nominees. And as a lot of people know, eventually there was an effort to weaken that caucus convention system, create an alternative path to the ballot. So if you're a candidate that doesn't think you can win a convention by facing people elected in their neighborhood caucuses, then you can now pay to get signatures. Typically, that's a paid effort to get signatures and not even worry about the caucus convention system. So when you ran to be state party chair, that was part of your platform is strong support of that grassroots participation. But what can we really do to strengthen that caucus convention system now?
That's something we've really been looking at and how we can do that. And participation is key, getting as many people to show up. But the ultimate thing I think that we can do in the situation that we're in right now is to make the caucus and convention system the sure way to get a candidate through the primary election. And that means that the grassroots are going to have to step up when it comes time to campaign for the primary. We're going to have to pick our candidate and our Republican nominee coming out of convention, and they need to support. They need ground game. They need people to help on the ground. Those are the things the party can provide. And that is an option that we do have, but yet we don't do it very often. And that's something that the party system has to offer. I mean, when you look at it from the top down, it's a state party to the county parties to the ledge districts or the precincts. There's a perfect system in line to help these candidates in every corner of their election.
Yeah.
But yet we don't often do that. And the more we utilize this system and the more we put it to work, that's the one thing that money can't buy is support. And that's the one thing we do have. At the end of the day, we do have those voters. We do have these grassroots people, and we need to take full advantage of those.
And not just those candidates, but you running the state party to really kind of push some of these initiatives. You also need help. You also need support. So what can people do to support you and the party?
Yeah, start paying attention, and we're going to start sending things out through the counties. We're going to kind of pick our races and do what we can. But when these candidates need help, when it comes time for the or after the primary or during the primary, once we pick our nominees, we need to help those, because the bylaw that was passed last year says that if they don't receive 40% of the vote in convention, they don't receive the support of the party, basically. Yes, we can't deny them access to the ballot because of SB 54, but because of our own rules, we don't have to give them access to party, services.
Okay.
And so this is something that we can do. Once we get convention winners, like if there's two, we support both of them. But this is something we can do. We can help push them over the finish line and make it so that people don't want to gather signatures, that they want to come through the party.
Yeah, I love that. And I think that isn't something that the party has been willing to do necessarily in the past, even after that passed. So
because
I
we've
really
had that
appreciate
bylaw for a couple of years, and it was completely, I mean, when I ran for something or other in 2020, that bylaw was disregarded completely. Something I was running for. But so Carson, you need money to do that too. So I want to encourage listeners to donate to the state Republican Party, your local county party, who can then turn around and help these candidates. Absolutely donate to candidates, but the party is that backbone for our Republican system, and it needs money.
It doesn't have to be a large amount. If a whole lot of us have a small donation going in every month, the party can count on that and start to build out more
Absolutely.
things.
But that brings us to another interesting point when it comes to fundraising and the damper that signatures are put on. So what's happened is, and I'm starting to see this more and more, is I'm seeing that people will bypass the party to go straight to the candidates because of the growing rift within the party, because of people getting into the party whom people don't trust. They don't want to send their money because they're afraid that their money is going to benefit a candidate they don't like and that they don't believe represents Republican. And that's what happens when you don't have Republicans across the board that represent Republican values and stand up for the platform in which we believe, which is really pretty simple.
Yeah.
Then people don't want to send the money. So people now circumnavigate the party and go directly to the candidates.
So I was going to say, and I've had this thought as I've been thinking through kind of what's going on in the party and how it impacts us ultimately. If we watch what has happened over the past couple decades with religious organizations that have decided to bow to leftist agendas, they have lost membership in droves. If we take a look at what occurred with the Boy Scouts of America, when they decided to adopt a leftist agenda, they do not exist. Do they even exist anymore? Not as a functional organization for the most part anymore. It doesn't take long. People, which is to your point, Carson, people who have supported the party have supported it because they believe in the
It meant
party.
something.
It meant something. And that's the same with the churches. It's the same with the Boy Scouts. And when you strip that away in order to satisfy people who never believed in what it stood for anyway, just wanted to either take the power from it to empower themselves or destroy it so that it no longer stood in their way, then you decimate what you're trying to negotiate to keep. It never works.
And one thing about Carson, and I'll also give props to our Salt Lake County Chair, Chris Knoll,
Yeah.
is they will say it how it is. And I think that, to Carolyn's point, we risk losing membership far more if we stand for nothing than if we may take positions that may offend some people. But, we've had... we've had leaders in our party make some really unpopular decisions. Another member of our governing state Republican Party who was strongly on the side of, negotiating with Democrat leaders in Salt Lake County to remask our kids. We've got Michelle Quist on the Salt Lake Trib editorial board who called out to militarize efforts against people she disagreed with their health care decisions. Now she's calling out for party rating. And so when you have people out there that are wondering, where's my political home? And these are the people that they hear about from the Republican Party. And I think we risk losing membership by standing for nothing or giving in to the left far more than we'll ever lose by taking strong conservative positions and being vocal about it, which you've been, Carson.
Well, I appreciate that. The party has to maintain neutrality, so I try to tread that fine line very carefully.
I said the names, you didn't.
That's fine. That's fine. I want to be fair, in my position. I want to make sure that I'm fair to everybody. And I'll tell you, it's been one of the hardest things for me to sit quiet about some things that I am not supposed to say because of my position. And it's been difficult for that exact reason, because my whole life has been, my grandpa taught me from an early age, my dad, everything. We grew up on the farm. Like, your word is your bond. Like, you either did it or you didn't. and you have to stand for something, and that means something. And what you say is what you get, which sometimes gets me in trouble. I have to admit, sometimes I feel like I'm too honest for this job, because I say things that I shouldn't because it's the truth, but it's not popular. But
it
we
may
have to stand
be
for something.
I mean, I think the things you probably want to say are very popular,
Well,
and upheld by the majority that is silence.
And to that point, Carson won this election instead of the governor-backed and favored candidate, and I think that says something, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that says something.
That was awesome.
I do hear
I just say what I think.
Well, you just happen to be right a lot.
Okay, how'd we do with caucus? How were our caucus
It was
meetings?
actually really good. Turnout, Wasatch Front North was about average, but turnout in rural was absolutely off the charts.
Oh, wow.
And especially once you got south of the Utah County line, like I say, Utah County, Salt Lake, Davis, Weber, they were all about average, maybe slightly above, some slightly below. But you got out in the rural counties and turnout was off the charts, which really surprised me, to be honest. Sometimes rural folks don't turn out.
Yeah.
But it was really nice to see that turnout. I mean, Tokerville, they had 50 people show up to their precinct. Oh, I think there's probably not very many people in town. That's probably half the town. But they showed up, and Washington County did a phenomenal job. They spent a lot of money in their county advertising. They got people out, and it was really good.
What do you attribute that to?
I think people are fed up at a national level. They are fed up. That's really what it boils down to. They're seeing politics, and this was the speech that I made as I traveled the state leading up to caucus. Was, what, you're tired. I know you're sick of seeing it all. I know you're tired of gas prices, the rising inflation that's hurting you, but now's not the time to hide. Now is the time to get involved, because you can only stick your head in the sand for so long before there's nothing left. And we can just hide from it all you want, but government will find you. It'll find its way into your pockets. It'll find its way into your schools. It'll find its way into your bedroom. It'll find its way into your kid's bedroom. So it's about time that we stand up, because now's the time not to run.
That's great. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Any last parting words? Would you give us the state party website where people can go to donate?
Yep, it's just utgop.org. Go there. There's a great big donate button on the front of it. It's pretty easy to find. But once again, if I could leave anybody with anybody, it's now's the time to be bold. When I ran my campaign, one of my favorite sayings is freedom lies in being bold. And now is that time. You're going to take a lot of flack, and it's going to be hard. But it's worth the fight, because we've got nowhere to go. We are the last best hope, as Reagan said, and Lincoln said, and everyone before that. We are that. And as we've seen, when the United States stumbles, nations fall. And the world is suffering because of poor choices we've made in this country, and it's time we stand up.
Oh, love it. Thank you so much. Thanks for joining us, Carson.
Thanks for having me. You guys are great.
So are you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, so like I mentioned, there are, I have a handful of delegates who I know are not Republicans. Some who are just, middle of the road people, but some who are not Republicans, clearly.
Well, look at the candidates, and if you're a delegate, talk. Talk around with other delegates, with other people who have been active in the party. There's a particular race I'm watching and helping a little bit on this, where one of the candidates had an absolute crisis of his Republican identity just a year or so ago, and calling out, asking people on social media, oh, why should I stay? Why should I stay? Someone stop me from.
Oh well, you're gonna have to tell me about this race later.
But I just want to say, look,
yeah.
If you need to find yourself, still go do it on a mountain or next to a
that's
lake.
Right.
Don't do it on our Capitol Hill. If you don't know solidly who you are and what you believe in, please don't.
Yeah, that's not the
Please
place to
don't.
figure it out. No, you won't.
And I mean, we definitely, and we don't throw the word rhino around, but we definitely have people who claim Republican in their title and their affiliation that have they read the platform? Do they have any idea what Republicans stand for?
No, they haven't read the platform, and they don't care what Republican stands for. Well, maybe that's an unfair assessment. I guarantee they have not read the platform. And I literally have had a couple people say to me, well, the whole reason I ran as a delegate was to pull the Republican Party away from the right. Now, that could mean a couple different things, right? That could mean to the middle. But again, what do you stand for in the middle?
And that begs the next question. So, when you have Utah Foundation say, Republicans have stayed pretty steady. So when people say they don't like the far right wing, identify that. What is that? So what is it?
We're into definitions.
Is it the difference between the 15, 18-month abortion bill versus full choice? What is it that you call far right wing that you disagree with? Fiscal responsibility? Less government in your business and in your life? I mean, exactly what is so right wing offensive to you that you would want to show up as a delegate and say, I'm here to make sure the right wingers aren't making decisions. And I've been called right wing. But nobody can tell me what is far right, what is so right wing about me. Because I go right down that platform.
Well, that's
pro-family, pro-life, pro-First Amendment, pro-Second Amendment,
pro-Constitution, pro all the amendments.
So
I think
pro all the amendments. So. I don't know. I think that's just easy to say. It's an easy thing to just vilify that, I don't like
it's
those
about
far-right
vilification.
wingers.
Yeah, it's the name calling thing that I have had to call a few people out on recently. I don't engage in that. I don't expect people in my meetings to engage in that. You will need to define your position. You will need to explain your terms. You will need to have a reasonable conversation based on data and information. And name calling it has no place in any conversation I'm going to participate in. And I try not to do it either. I don't think I've ever said rhino. I don't think I've ever called anybody that. I do not like name calling. Just call out what the issues are.
What is it?
And let's have a
Yeah.
discussion.
What does that mean to you? And it is a natural human tendency. It's how our brains work to categorize things.
Correct.
And so yeah, we naturally do some categorizing. But when you say, I don't want the far right wingers of the party making decisions,
Be able to define
I don't
it.
want the far right wing taking over the party. What is that?
Yeah,
What is that?
and I think to your point, you are correct, right? We do classify things. Those are shortcuts. But if we can't explain what we mean when we use a term, which
Right.
most people can't, it's just laziness. And I think that's where political discourse has gone.
Yeah.
To a place of I think it's more than laziness. It is just an attempt to shut down views that
Yeah.
you don't agree with and to not ever have to debate.
Label and dismiss.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, label and dismiss.
So
We have a lot of work to do, I think, to ensure that we are educating people on these values and that we're explaining these things when people do join the party and participate in things like our caucus meetings. I think it needs to be more a part of what we're doing.
I do still believe there's a role for the party and the Republican Party in particular. I don't always love what every Republican does, but
Right.
I do largely agree with our platform to a large nth degree.
Yeah.
And I do think it's worth supporting and it's worth strengthening.
Yes.
And I've always been in my adult life someone who I like to work on the party side on strengthening. That is the backbone, the infrastructure to carry. It's the vehicle for our values, and making sure it doesn't go off track.
Yeah.
by being involved.
That's right.
Yeah.
And right now, you said strengthening it. It needs that strength because it is being pummeled
Right.
by people who would love to have the party destroyed.
And the flip side of the same coin is the elected office. Those many elected offices. For instance, the one that you're running for. But I think both sides of that, supporting good Republican candidates that will carry our values to Capitol Hills and committee meetings and board meetings, and but then the party. So I would encourage our listeners to support
Yeah.
the party.
Yeah,
Support the Republican
absolutely.
Party, state and local.
Yes.
So
So thank you for joining us for another episode of Kim and Carolyn. Oh, that would be Straight Talk with Kim and Carolyn. And please find us wherever you find your podcasts. You can also find us on Rumble, YouTube, Facebook, and like us, follow us, share us. Thanks for the engagement with you, and we'll see you next time. FOSMU, we're not going yet. FOSMU, thank you. Thanks for your participation. Thanks for everything that you do to make this happen.
I live for moments like this.
We'll see you next time.